Imagine a king dressed in fine robes, crowned in gold sitting on his toilet, while holding a royal meeting. Yes, you heard that right in. Some royal courts relieving oneself was not just private. It was a public performance. But why did powerful? Rulers from France to Korea treat the act of going to the toilet as a moment of power, prestige, and even politics today. We are diving deep into royal privies, sacred bathroom gods, deadly throne assassinations, and hygiene rituals so bizarre they will make your jaw drop, from palaces with golden toilets to kings who died mid-defecation. This is history you were never taught in school. See, in the ancient world, toilets were not just about waste. They were about control, cleanliness, and ceremony. The royal toilet was a status symbol, a place of ritual, and sometimes a site of political murder. Stay with us until the end, because the final story will make you look at your bathroom in a completely different way. You will discover how toilets revealed a person's rank and how even death could happen on the throne. Welcome to our channel, where history comes alive in the most unexpected ways. You enjoy dark secrets, strange customs, and the untold side of royal life. Hit that subscribe button and join our journey through time. In the grand courts of Renaissance Europe, the line between public and private was not as clear as it is today. For kings, even the act of relieving themselves could become a matter of state. Take King Henry III of France, for example. He was assassinated in 1589 while sitting on his toilet. His chamberlain had just stepped away, and a fanatical monk took the chance to strike. Henry had turned his personal chamber into a place for conversation, decision-making, and sometimes dangerous. Strange as it sounds, royal toilets were not always private places. In fact, it was normal for monarchs to receive visitors while seated on their close stool, a type of portable toilet. For some, this was a power move. It showed they were so important they did not need to stop ruling even while using the bathroom. This odd mix of dignity and discomfort was not unique to France. In the ancient Near East, the story of King Eglon from the Book of Judges paints a similar picture. Eglon, a Moabite king, was in his private upper chamber, a space that also served as a bathroom, when a visitor named Ehud arrived with a secret message. As the king leaned in to hear it, Ehud drew a dagger and stabbed him in the belly. His servants waited outside, assuming the king was just relieving himself. That delay gave Ehud enough time to escape. In both cases, the toilet was not just a place of relief. It became a stage for betrayal. Far from being simple or dirty, some ancient royal toilets were built with care, engineering, and even elegance. In fact, archaeologists have uncovered toilet spaces so refined they reveal just how much status and power were tied to this basic human needing. Jerusalem, a palace believed to be nearly 2,700 years old, held a toilet that stunned historians. It was carved from smooth limestone and set in a private chamber sealed off from the outside world. This was not a shared facility. It was a royal toilet, one meant for a person of extremely high status, possibly even a king of Judah. Beneath it was a septic tank, suggesting a system that kept the space clean and odor-free. For its time, it was advanced, hygienic, private, and exclusive. On the other side of Asia, in the ancient Silla kingdom of Korea, another rare toilet was discovered dating to the 8th century. It was made of stone and connected to a drainage system. This was not a simple hole in the ground. It had flow, it had design, and most importantly, it had intention. It was part of a royal residence built for someone who had both the wealth and knowledge to expect sanitation. These royal toilets were more than places to sit. They were symbols. Their construction reflected the values of the elite: cleanliness, privacy, and control. And in a world where most people relieved themselves outdoors, such luxury made a bold statement. In imperial Rome, going to the toilet was not a private act. It was a public event. Large stone buildings open to the air housed rows of marble benches. Each bench had perfectly carved openings placed side by side with no partitions. These were the public latrines of Rome, and they were busy. People did not just come here to relieve themselves. They came to talk, debate, and share gossip. Senators, merchants, even elite officials might find themselves seated next to one another discussing politics while nature took its course. These toilets became social spaces, unofficial meeting halls where information flowed as freely as water. The Romans were not. Embarrassed by this arrangement, in fact, they designed the latrines with care beneath. The benches ran a steady stream of water used to carry waste away. A second channel placed in front was used for hygiene. That is where the tersorium came in, a sponge on a stick soaked in water or vinegar shared by all after use. It was rinsed and returned for the next person. By modern standards, this sounds shocking, but in Roman times, it was perfectly normal to them. The toilet was just another part of public life, and for the elite, being seen and heard even while seated on stone was a sign of importance in a world without emails or news broadcasts. The latrine was one more place where the affairs of the empire were quietly shaped for many. Ancient cultures' toilets were more than just places for waste. They were sacred spaces, watched over by gods, cleansed by ritual, and filled with meaning. Even in the most private of acts, people believed the divine was present. In ancient Rome, the sewer system was connected to a goddess named Clocina. She was the protector of the Cloaca Maxima, one of the oldest drainage systems in the world. Romans believed she kept the city clean and pure, but the toilet was not just a place of flow, it was also a place of sound. That is where Crepitus, the god of flatulence, made his mark. Strange as it sounds, even bodily noises had their own spiritual guardian. Meanwhile, in Asia, toilet worship reached deeper levels. In Japan, the deity Yuju-sama-myoji was believed to purify defilement. People would pray to him for protection and health, especially during pregnancy. In Korea, households feared Choikshin, a toilet goddess known to be vengeful if disrespected families near the latrine, to avoid bad luck. And in China, the toilet goddess Zigu was believed to offer blessings, especially to women. Rituals were performed to honor her, asking for fertility, safety, and fortune. These beliefs turned the toilet into a place of spiritual power. It was not simply about dirt or disease. It was about keeping harmony between the human and the divine, even in the most unexpected corner of the home. Long before the invention of toilet paper, people around the world came up with creative and sometimes shocking ways to stay clean. What you used in the bathroom often depended on your culture, your class, and even your location. In ancient Rome, the most common tool was the tersorium, a sponge tied to the end of a stick. It was soaked in water or vinegar and shared by everyone in the public latrine. After use, it was rinsed and returned to the trough for the next person. In other regions, like ancient Greece and Egypt, people used ceramic shards, flat stones, or mussel shells. These were kept nearby and used carefully, though not always comfortably. By medieval times in Europe, chamber pots had become common, but their use wasn't limited to bedrooms. In some castles and noble houses, people would relieve themselves in chamber pots right in the dining room. Especially during long feasts, servants would discreetly carry them away. There was little sense of shame using the toilet, or something like it was simply part of everyday life. Hygiene habits also showed sharp class differences. While royals and nobles often used soft cloth or fine linen, the lower classes made do with whatever they could find: straw, moss leaves, or even animal fur. Some peasants collected old rags for reuse. Comfort was not guaranteed across cultures and centuries. One thing was clear: bathroom habits revealed more than hygiene. They reflected power, status, and the values of an entire society. For all their wealth and power, even kings were most vulnerable when seated alone on the toilet. And throughout history, the privy has proven to be the perfect place for murder. One of the earliest and most brutal cases was King Edmund Ironside of England, who ruled in the year 1016. According to some accounts, he was stabbed from below through the wooden toilet seat. While using the royal latrine, the assassin hid in the waste pit, waiting for the king's moment of weakness. One strike was enough. Another chilling example comes from Central Europe. The Duke of Bohemia, in the 11th century, was reportedly killed in a similar way. While seated on the privy, a blade was thrust upward through the hole. It was an attack made possible only because the victim had let his guard down. And then there was Godfrey IV, Duke of Lorraine, who died in 1076. While sitting on his toilet in Antwerp, he was suddenly struck down. Some say it was illness, others claim assassination. What's certain is that the toilet, room meant for privacy, became the stage for death. killings all share one grim truth. When power sits still, danger strikes fast. In royal courts where betrayal was common and privacy was rare, the toilet became the unlikeliest battlefield here. The most private act became public, not just in scandal, but in blood too. Modern eyes, the idea of a king using the toilet in front of others seems shocking. But in the ancient world, there was little shame among the elite when it came to bodily functions. In fact, toilets were often a part of daily courtly life, right alongside politics advisors and rituals. For rulers, privacy was a luxury, not a necessity. A king could choose to be seen at his most vulnerable, and that was the point. It showed confidence, strength, and control. If a monarch could receive visitors while on the toilet, it signaled that his power was absolute. No setting was too personal, no act too private. There were also practical reasons behind this openness. In many royal courts, physicians were tasked with observing the ruler's stool, checking its color, smell, and consistency. It was a key method of diagnosing illness long before blood tests or scans. So a king's time on the toilet was not only political, it was medical. His health was a matter of national importance. The toilet then became a symbol. It reflected status, transparency, and the blurred line between public duty and private life, where commoners might sneak away to relieve themselves in secret. Kings turned it into ceremony. They weren't embarrassed. They were elevated. In this way, the royal toilet was more than a seat. It was a throne in every sense of the word. Today, the bathroom is one of the most private spaces in our lives. We close doors, lock them, and would never dream of inviting someone in while we use the toilet. Even in public restrooms, we expect walls, stalls, and silence. The idea of discussing politics or holding court while seated on the toilet sounds absurd, but for ancient royalty, it was perfectly normal. In the past, toilets were not hidden away. They were part of daily life, even among the most powerful. Kings and nobles invited advisors into the chamber. Conversations flowed alongside water. Even health was monitored in these moments, with physicians inspecting what was left behind. There was no shame because the toilet wasn't just about the body. It was about control, status, and visibility. What shocks us today would have been routine centuries ago. The same act that we guard so carefully was once a symbol of power and openness. Royal latrines were richly built, public in function, and central to life in the palace. This contrast between past and present reminds us how deeply cultural norms can change. What we now see as private was once public. What we hide, they displayed. And while the world around the toilet has evolved, its strange link to power, vulnerability, and human nature remains surprisingly strong throughout history. The toilet has been far more than a place of necessity. In royal courts across the world, it symbolized status, ritual, and power. From marble benches in Roman public latrines to private stone thrones in ancient palaces, these spaces told stories, not just of hygiene, but of hierarchy, control, and even divine presence. Kings held audiences while relieving themselves. Assassins struck when rulers were most exposed. Priests performed rituals to cleanse what could not be seen, and entire societies designed their toilet habits around beliefs about purity, class, and the human body. Today, things have changed. Privacy is prized. Shame surrounds what was once normal. But one question remains. What does our bathroom privacy say about us now? Is it a sign of dignity or just a shift in custom? As you flush away the past, remember, history often hides in the most unexpected places. You found this video eye-opening. Give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more surprising stories from history's hidden corners. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.